Welcome to the West Asia Gallery of the Asian Art Museum. Today, I'd like us to take a little closer look at a wonderful artifact here, and I'd like you to notice a few things about it. Let's notice together that the main thing that you see on this beautiful plate is a sprig of a fresh plant, and on either side are two little rabbits. And they're done in the colors of spring, green and blue. The whole effect is very, very fresh. It reminds us all of spring and the new year. People all around the world love to celebrate the new year, and they do it in many different ways. We go by our calendar and celebrate on January the 1st. Millions of other people celebrate it by watching the patterns of the moon, the lunar calendar, and celebrate it early in the spring. But millions of people around the world watch for the one day in spring when the day is exactly the same length as the night. And that day the Persian people call Nowruz, the first day, the new day of the new year. And they tell a story about how it all began. Long, long ago, when the world was young, the Creator, who made all things and lives in the light above us all, looked down on the kingdom of Persia and saw the old king had died. He left behind one son, Prince Jamshid, who was young and strong. The Creator lifted Prince Jamshid up into the light and said, "Are you ready to become the next king? Are you ready to lead the people and teach them the difference between good and evil, and how each of us must choose one for themselves?" Jamshid looked down and was silent for a moment. He thought, "I'm strong and powerful, but can I be as good a king, as mighty a king as my father? He conquered demons, and he bound them to the service of man." But then he straightened and said, "O Creator, I know my limits, but if I can add to the good of the world, then I promise you I will help the Persian people become strong and prosper." And at those words, in the air above Jamshid's head appeared a golden crown. It floated down and rested on his head. On his finger, there appeared the shining gold ring with the king's seal upon it. And now Jamshid's body began to fill with a wonderful energy. Warmth flowed from the Creator. "O Jamshid, your body glows, your face glows bright with far. Far is the divine power, the holy power that's given to those who do good for the people." So he took Jamshid and laid him gently, gently back down onto the holiest mountain in all of Persia. The people of Persia were waiting on the plain below, thousands and thousands of them watching the mountain, and they said, "Oh, there are two suns in the sky." And then they saw one bright light move down the mountainside, and they said, "No, that other sun is our king." And it was true. Jamshid showed them the crown and the ring, and he glowed with that fire and said, "O people of Persia, I promise you, I will use this divine power to make you strong and healthy." And Jamshid kept his promise. The king taught the people how to make things out of metal, how to make things out of cloth. He taught them how to make medicine and wine, and my favorite, sugar. But one of the best things he did was he watched the sun and the night stars, And he discovered that there was one day in the spring when the day was exactly as long as the night. And he called the people to him in front of the palace. They gathered in the square, and he said, "This day will be called Nowruz, and we will celebrate it every year, because now we know that when the day is exactly the same length as the day and night, that is when we plant, and now we will also know when to harvest. We will know what is the beginning and what is the end." And now King Jamshid's far grew so bright and so strong, the Creator even commanded him to gallop on his horse across the bridge that led to hell. And there he should kick those doors shut, chain them fast, and lock in the spirit of evil. Now, with the spirit of evil chained in to hell, Persia was like a paradise. The people were happy and orderly. They lived for hundreds and hundreds of years. There was no illness, there was only joy. Music played everywhere. One day, the stargazers came to the king as he sat in his throne in the palace and said, "O king, Nowruz is coming near. What shall we do to prepare for the celebration?" King Jamshid smiled, looked out the window, and saw his beautiful kingdom, happy and content. And then he sat up straight. He began to tap the armrest of his throne. And he said, "I have given my people everything. I have given them knowledge. I am the builder of cities. They can live forever, and this throne seems so puny for someone as great as me. The throne of Jamshid should show how great a king I am." He lifted his hand, and demons bound to his power came and bowed before him. "I want you to build for me a gigantic gold throne. Then go into the deeps of the earth and the sea and come back with diamonds and rubies and emeralds and sapphires and pearls and all manner of precious things and encrust that throne." And when it was done, the demons placed that throne in the square in front of the palace. The morning of Nowruz, the people gathered in that square, looking and looking for the first rays of the sun to come and warm their faces. The trumpets blew, and King Jamshid walked out and got on to that gigantic, glittering throne. And at his gesture, from the four directions, demons came in on hot, howling winds and lifted that throne up into the air, high above the people who watched it go higher and higher. And Jamshid said, "I want it higher still, higher, high as the sun." And now the people looked, and yes, again, it looked like there were two suns, one the real sun, and one the throne of King Jamshid. And from that height, he looked down at the people and said, "I command all of you now to bow down before me, and I want you to say that you, King Jamshid, are the creator of the world." At those terrible words, "You, King Jamshid, are the creator of the world," there was a complete silence in the universe. And then the king gasped, and out of his chest burst the form of a shadowy, dark falcon, a sharp-beaked bird that flew out. It was the shape of his Far, his divine power. It left his body, flew up into the heavens, and punched a hole in the perfection of creation. And the spirit of evil found that opening and he plunged through it with a bone-melting shriek and found a young man by the name of Zahak. Zahak lived in a faraway country, and he liked to listen to the voice of the spirit of evil. He listened so much that he even killed his own father so he could become the ruler of that faraway kingdom. But as he grew in power, he could not hide the mark of his evil. For out of each shoulder of Zahak there grew a long, snapping black snake that he fed with the brains of innocent young men. There were many who came to the throne of Zahak to speak to him, but not one person could look Zahak in the face. Now, when King Jamshid came down in his glittering golden throne, his face no longer shone. He was like an ordinary mortal man. And those things that come to an ordinary mortal king: discontent, anger, riot, all those came to King Jamshid. Until the day came that Jamshid's own people and armies went to Zahak, and together they came back to attack King Jamshid, and they chased him out of his kingdom all the way to the far, far ends of the earth. And there, by the China Sea, Jamshid had to hide in a hollow tree. But that didn't save his life. Zahak ordered that that hollow tree be sawn in half with a saw that had 1,000 sharp teeth. And that is how King Jamshid came to his end. Now, it's true that King Jamshid's fall came because of his pride, but everyone still today likes to remember all the wonderful things he did for the Persian people, especially Nowruz, the first new day of the new year. And so they celebrate that holiday on that day when it is exactly the same length of light as it is to dark. They gather with their families, eat delicious foods. They set out a celebration table called the Haft Scene Table. And it has things on it that represent the wonderful things that King Jamshid did. But the most important thing they do every year on that day, they dedicate themselves anew in their hearts to do good for others.